Winged Beast is a bit of a strange typing. It's beasts, but with wings. Why are these guys separated like that? Just to put birds in their own category without having to use the word birds? Crazy stuff. Quite frequently they just get lumped into a tri-type with beasts and beast warriors anyway, and don't get me started on the lack of distinction between beast and beast warriors. Regardless, it's near about Thanksgiving around these parts, so let's dive into some true turkeys and rustle up my mellow top 10 favorite winged beasts while you nap or paint miniatures or something. Honorable mention, Mild Turkey. I gotta be honest, I don't like this card nearly as much as its cousin Hollow Hollow. Thanksgiving is just not a holiday I particularly care about. Who gives a shit about the pilgrims, right? They sucked ass. They should have starved. However, the conceit of the video is celebrating that holiday, which made it a lot easier to figure out what to write about, and it doesn't feel right to make a Thanksgiving video without the Thanksgiving card, Mild Turkey. I do like one thing about this card, and that's the name. It's weird to see a pun on the alcohol Wild Turkey in Yu-Gi-Oh! The trading card game, but it's also very funny. And you know what? It really seems like Mild Turkey has hit the Wild Turkey a little too hard this year. Look at it go. Not so mild anymore. Now, can anyone explain what's going on in that flavor text? Yeah, get it? Flavor text? It's a turkey? Number 10, Mist Valley Apex Avian. A lot of the cards on here are cards I've actually played. I'm suddenly realizing how often I play Winged Beast decks. This one I've actually played in 2 separate decks. Tri-Brigade, where we summon it off of the Simorgh Link monster, and Fluon de Rees, where we just tribute summon that thing. The Mist Valley archetype is perhaps one of the worst archetypes ever printed, but they did manage to print exactly one good card. A giant majestic bird with as many negates as you have Mist Valley monsters to return to hand. This usually means 1 negate because you don't want to play any Mist Valley cards except for this one, unless you can find a way to get Thunderbird on field for infinite negates instead. That made it plenty good to play in Tri-Brigade, particularly the Bird Up build with Lyrilisk in instances where you'd used up the barrier statue, and extremely good in Flu, which needs big tribute guys and otherwise doesn't have a straight up Omni negate. When they did that Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1 reprint set, I pulled the dual terminal rare of this guy, which is about 17 cents on TCG Player, a subsidiary of eBay which is still actively engaged in union busting of the TCG Player Union. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, Apex Avian. That dual terminal rare looks really nice, I like it a lot. Here's hoping there comes a deck in the near future where I can drop this guy again. Maybe Terminal World 3 will have Mist Valley support or something? Can they make Thunderbird not a thunder and instead a bird? I would appreciate it. Number 9, Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys. This one is a true blue classic. Everyone loves Nephthys. It's such a cool boss monster that it got a whole new wave of support in 2018. And hell, the Fire Kings are basically Nephthys support too, except for the anti-synergy of Fire King Island. In Duel Links, they even give you both in the same structure deck. Nephthys is of course very flavorful, being a phoenix that when killed rises from the ashes with explosive results, destroying all spell traps on the field. Unfortunately, that's only when destroyed by a card effect, so it's pretty easy for the opponent to avoid that fate. Guess you'll have to pop it yourself. Something really cool about Nephthys is that she's not really a normal phoenix. She's coated in gold armor, almost seeming more mechanical than biological, and she has human arms and a little bit of chest. You see, Nephthys isn't just a phoenix, she's also a deity, based on an ancient Egyptian goddess of the same name. Nephthys is associated with kites and hawks, and was often depicted with wings. That means while our Nephthys is a phoenix, she also fits into the Egyptian theming that was an overarching narrative of the first era of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's why all of her later support is themed around worshipping her and summoning the blue ritual form. She's just such a neat card all around. Number 8, Windrose the Elemental Lord. Windrose is easily one of the coolest of the Elemental Lords. Most of them just kind of feel like basically what you'd expect, just large mechanical beings with highlights befitting their element, but for some reason the wind one is a giant bundle of roses in the shape of a bird? What a strange idea that I absolutely love. They didn't go for the typical red roses either. This is a purple rose creature with green leaves and a bit of yellow mottling. It's so much more memorable than its compatriots. And its effect is pretty flavorful too, destroying the opponent's back row, just like Harpy's Feather Duster and Heavy Storm, both of which are wind-themed cards. Not in the sense of the attribute, but in the sense of, literal actual wind. You can really tell that they were thinking hard about how to tie these cards in the way they designed thematically related cards in the past. Now we just need a wind deck where this guy is playable at all. I don't know, I just don't think he's ever going to see the same play as Mulinglacia, unfortunately. Number 7, Simorgh Bird of Sovereignty. I mentioned this guy earlier, which might have tricked some of you into thinking he wouldn't be on the list, but here he is. This guy is probably the best Winged Beast Link monster out there. There's a reason he's still banned. This guy is relatively easy to make in any deck where the effect is relevant, especially in Tri-Brigade where you can use the banish effect to ignore the material requirements entirely. It protects wing beasts from targeting, it can replace its own destruction by battle with another Simorg, and it can summon a winged beast from the deck, which is the most crazy part. You can set up a barrier statue, a Mist Valley Apex Avian, whatever you want baby, as long as the back row is clear enough. Even more than all that, this is the coolest looking Simorg. It has such a dynamic pose, and that golden armor is such a nice contrast with the pastel green of the bird. It definitely feels like the sovereign of the Simorg. What's the Simorg lore anyways? What's their deal? Let me know in the comments below. Number 6, Slower Swallow. This one might not be familiar to anyone who hasn't played Lyrilusc without the Tri-Brigade guys, but I really love this little guy. The idea behind this card is that it's a level 1 winged beast you can summon when you control 2 monsters with the same level, which works really well in a deck that uses level 1 winged beast to Ixie summon. If you don't end up using it as material for something though, you contribute it to get an extra draw next turn instead, which isn't great, but in combination with the rest of the card is a pretty decent effect. Even better, it's attached to this little cutie. Slower Swallow is weirdly un-Yu-Gi-Oh in its cuteness. It seems less like a Yu-Gi-Oh card and more like a Hallmark card. A little swallow with a bonnet in front of a wreath of flowers and even more flowers in its messenger bag. If it was any more saccharine, I would vomit. That incongruity is what draws me to it. Such a strange little card that was clearly meant to be pack filler, but really worked out for exactly the Lyrilusc deck. Very fun. I love that. Number 5, Tri-Brigade Shureg, the Ominous Omen. Lore card, lore card. This guy is yet again cool on both a mechanical and an artistic standpoint. The Tri-Brigade as a whole have a very nice aesthetic. A kind of punky guerrilla fighter look with a black and gold color scheme. It's peak, it's peak. Shureg takes that to the next level with his massive wings, one mechanical and one natural, his hawkish mask hiding his Bishonen face, and of course his big fuck-off gun that untargeting banishes stuff off the field. That's right baby, the effect of the monster reflects what the character actually does. You know I love that shit. Anytime a tri-type is summoned, this guy gets to blast a card off the face of reality, and when he leaves the field he can add a tri-type from deck to hand because he's the leader of the Tri-Brigade baby. This is one of the cards we've actually gotten the reference art from, and he is just such a neat design. If only he was a girl. Anyways, this powerful boss monster made Tri-Brigade extremely meta relevant alongside Simorg, and that alone gave this guy a spot on my list because I love that deck. I just wish they would give the deck something to make it playable again. Number 4, Fire King Courtier Ulcanix. There had to be a Fire King card on here, and it was about to be Fire King High Avatar Garunix. Then I remembered that they made a new card after the structure deck that's a pretty girl and also pretty powerful. So I went with that instead. I mean, look at her, she's so pretty. Her printing revitalized the Fire King engine that had been so cruelly dropped from the Snake Eyes deck in favor of playing Pure and later Fiendsmith. Her presence made the Fire King package a preferable way to play Snake Eyes for a bit in Master Duel after several ban lists finally hit it past the point of being top dog when played Pure. She's the consort of the Fire Kings, which is why she lives in Fire King Sanctuary, and why she searches a Fire Tri-type, in other words, a Fire King, and then summons a Garunix on destruction. Garunix assumedly being the one she is the consort of? Is she straight if she's married to a giant bird? Are all the Fire King avatars simply manifestations, or avatars, if you will, of the Fire King? That's like a lot of guys to be the same guy. That's worse than the Holy Trinity, like come on. Anyways, regardless of the actual lore, I like her a lot. Did I mention that she's pretty? Number 3, Fluandereeze and M-Pen. So I think that every deck that I covered in my top 10 archetype aesthetics is going to have at least one representative in the other top 10 lists. Anyways, I really like Fluandereeze, and M-Pen is my favorite of them. That's a joke about how all the Fluandereeze cards have an "and" in them. So I've talked before about my love for Fluandereeze, but I honestly think it can't be overstated how refreshing the art style for these cards is. The storybook style really reflects the adventuring theme of these cards, each card being a page in the storybook of the titular Fluandereeze. This is further supported by the naming conventions of the cards, which match that of a children's book series. So maybe they're less the pages of a storybook, but instead the covers of storybooks. I like the cool iciness of the foreground and the chilly winds in the background. Mechanically, obviously M-Pen is a floodgate, but it's a tribute summon boss monster that can only be used in this specific deck. I don't think it's any worse than whatever unfair thing your deck is doing. That's just how Yu-Gi-Oh works at this point. Come on. I'm sorry that my little floodgate stops you from OTKing me, FTKing me, turn skipping me, or negating me into oblivion. I won't do better next time. I'm still gonna M-Pen your ass. I do like that M-Pen is a tribute monster that searches. That's a little bit different. The battle trick effect is very funny too, and it actually matters here. Turns out the way to make a battle trick effect matter is to put it on a floodgate. It also helps that while you'd think that having attack wouldn't do much, it's actually surprisingly effective. Half of 3000 is only 1500 after all. For these reasons, M-Pen will forever be my friend, both on the field and in my collection. Number 2, Cyber / Harpy Lady. Okay, enough about birds. It's time to talk about girls. Cyber / Harpy Lady is my favorite generic level 8 synchro. If I can't get a synchro on field to make Crystal Wing with, you bet your ass I'm making Cyber / Harpy Lady. The reason for that is simple. Pretty lady. I mean, the bounce effect in response to any spell trap activation. I think that's such a neat effect. A lot worse than a straight up bounce, of course, but much more interesting card design wise. Another interesting design space that Cyber / Harpy Lady is in is using a Harpy Lady as a tuner. That's not only interesting for Cyber /, but also fills a very cool design space, first opened up by Nirvana High Paladin. There's only 4 cards that do this: Cyber / High Paladin, Ib the World Chalice Justiciar, and Chaos Angel. Isn't that neat? I think it's such a cool effect, especially in an old legacy deck like Harpy Lady. They could have just made an Ixies, which they had before, but they decided to do something a little bit better. Something better. And of course, look at her. She's so cool. That armor is peak. I love her so much. Harpy Lady format in Duel Links was one of my faves of all time because of her. She's so cool. Let me play her. Let me play her. Give me more Harpy Lady support. Number 1, Lyrilusc Recital Starling. Everything comes back to Lyrilusc. I love the Lyrilusc deck. It's so full of pretty girls and it's so fun to play. I love flocking mechanics. Recital Starling is one of the most important parts of the deck with her non-once per turn search and also one of the cutest girls in here, although that's a very stiff competition. Don't make any jokes about the word stiff here. Oops, sorry, I was reading my notes there. I don't know, there's just something about the combo for Lyrilusc that tickles my fancy. Maybe it's the fact that it ends on Utopic Draco Future. I do have a soft spot for that guy. Perhaps it's just that I like combos that put so many things on the field. That's the likely culprit. Maybe it's just that they're cute and it's all subconscious. Regardless, these guys are one of my favorite decks. I keep going for wind decks now that I think about it, but please give us the Year of the Wind. I am begging for it. Recital Starling being a non-hard once per turn searcher is also a distinct reason I'm drawn to this deck. I love exploiting cards without a hard once per turn. It's one of my favorite things in the game. That's why Evol fascinates me so, even though I had to drop Najasho from the deck. The power level of Recital Starling is so beyond the pale that it led to her being limited for a while, and that kind of power is so fun to play with. Put that on a girl and my little power-hungry Yuri heart is going to go crazy and jam the deck well past the point it's playable. So that's exactly what I did. So there you have it, my top 10 favorite winged beast monsters. What do you think of all these choices? What would you include in your top 10? Let me know down below, rest well, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night. Hey there. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I got a lot more for you if you want them. Just hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notifications. I'd also appreciate if you left me a like and a comment and maybe shared the video around with your friends. You can also follow me on all the usual social media sites. Just check out my website in the description below for more info. My videos are funded by my patrons and YouTube members whose names you'll see scrolling by in these credits here. For just $1 a month, you too can find yourself trapped here in my end screen for all eternity. In particular, I'd like to thank Haru Hayes, Fleekill, Frog Prince Michael, Jeremy Coatney, and Darkwing Rame. A big thanks to all my other patrons and to my little community as a whole. Remember to be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and have a wonderful whatever time it is for you. Bye-bye. Sleep well.